Tom was just a ship engineer. He didn't wear medals or command warships. He fixed engines, cleaned filters, and sometimes helped lost freighters find their way home. He liked quiet work, away from politics and fame. One morning, while traveling, alone in his small repair ship, he picked up a weak distress signal. It was fading fast. He traced it to a nearby asteroid belt. Most ships avoided that place. It was full of pirate traps and mining debris. But Tom didn't turn back as he got closer. The signal grew clearer. It came from a small escape pod. The pod was old and damaged, its engines cold. He locked onto it and pulled it into his docking bay. The pod door opened with a soft hiss, and inside he saw someone lying still. It was a young alien woman. Her skin was pale silver with glowing blue veins. Her body was covered in bruises and scratches. She looked peaceful but weak, her breathing shallow. Tom checked her pulse and found it faint but steady. Without thinking twice, he lifted her gently and carried her to his medical unit. For the next few days, Tom stayed close. He gave her water, cleaned her wounds, and ran simple healing scans. Slowly, she began to recover. She didn't speak much at first, just watched him with calm, curious eyes. On the fourth day, she finally spoke. "You are not Yari," she said softly. "No," Tom replied, smiling. "I'm human." She blinked slowly. "Yet you helped me." "Of course. You needed help." "Does it matter where you're from?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Thank you." Tom didn't ask who she was. He didn't need to. It didn't matter to him. But the universe had other plans. A few days later, a massive golden ship appeared near his coordinates. It was a Yari royal cruiser, the kind used only by the High Lords. It sent out a strong signal, requesting to board. Tom allowed it, unsure what was going on. Soldiers stepped onto his ship. They were tall and armored, with silver skin like the girl he had saved, but they bowed before her the moment they saw her standing. "Princess Neri." One said, "We feared you were lost." Tom's eyes widened. "A princess?" He looked at her, surprised. She gave him a small smile, like she knew this moment would come. The guards turned to Tom and asked him to come with them. They said the king wished to meet him in person. Tom wasn't sure what to do, but Neri placed a gentle hand on his armpits. "All right," she said. "My father is proud. He will not harm you." With that, they flew him to the Yari homeworld. The palace was carved into the side of a crystal mountain. Bright towers reached into the clouds. Light danced on the glass walls. Everything shimmered like it was made of starlight. Tom was brought before King Ravuk, ruler of the Yari. The king was tall and stern. His face was hard, but his eyes were full of thought. He looked at Tom for a long time before speaking. "You saved my daughter when others passed her by," the king said. "You showed honor, even without knowing who she was." Tom stood calmly. "She needed help. That's all that mattered." The king nodded slowly. "Many would have turned away. You did not. For that, you will be rewarded." Tom blinked. "I don't need a reward." "Still," the king said, raising a hand, "you will choose one. Riches beyond count, a warship of your own, or something else." Tom tilted his head. "What's something else?" The king gave a small smile. "My daughter's hand in marriage." The hall went silent. Tom's breath caught. He turned slightly to see Neri standing beside the throne. She did not seem surprised. Her face was calm, her eyes steady. Some nobles in the room began to whisper. A few even laughed quietly. Tom noticed. He looked at Neri again. She looked down. Just for a moment, Tom understood then. In her own court, she was not loved, maybe not even liked, maybe. She was too quiet, too strange, or too different. He didn't know all the reasons, but he saw her strength. He saw the way she had thanked him, how she had recovered with grace and pride. He turned back to the king. "I'll marry her," he said. The room went silent again. Even the whispers stopped. Neri's eyes lifted. Why with surprise? The king looked at him closely. "You are sure?" Tom nodded. "Yes, she's brave, kind. That's enough." The king slowly stood. He walked down the steps of the throne and placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. Then so it shall be. He said. The announcement spread quickly across the stars. People talked about the human who married the odd alien princess. Some joked. Some questioned. But Tom didn't care. That evening, Neri joined him on a palace balcony. The stars above were bright, painting the sky with silver. You didn't have to say yes. She said softly. I know, Tom said. But I meant it, even if I'm not like others. You're not. That's what makes you special. She looked at him for a long time. Then maybe the strange story has a good beginning after all. And somewhere between the stars and the silence, a new chapter began. The royal wedding was planned in just 7 days. On the Yari homeworld, such speed was rare. But the king wanted it done before any of the council could argue. He said honor could not wait. Tom said he was fine with that. Neri said nothing at all, but her eyes were calm. The palace workers rushed to prepare. They cleaned the crystal halls, polished the sky towers, and set light paths across the royal gardens. Floating lanterns were placed in the air, each one showing a memory from Yari history. Every tradition was followed, even if the guests didn't. All agree with it. Tom didn't care about the royal rules. He just wanted Neri to be happy. He asked her once, on the 5th day, if she wanted to stop the wedding. She looked at him with soft eyes. Do you? No, Tom said. But I want it to be your choice too. Neri thought for a moment. This is the first time anyone has asked me what I want. I think I want to see what happens next. That was enough for Tom. The wedding day arrived with silver clouds and golden sunlight. Guests came from across the stars. Some were Yari nobles, others were allies and diplomats. Even a few humans from nearby colonies were invited, though they stayed quiet and unsure among the tall Yari people. The ceremony took place on the highest tower of the palace. It was made of living crystal that changed color in the light. The tower faced the twin moons, and from its edge, one could see the mountains and oceans of the planet far below. Tom stood in a simple black suit, his only decoration a small metal gear on his chest, the symbol of a human shipbuilder. He refused royal armor or jewels. He said it wasn't his style. Neri stood beside him in a flowing robe of deep blue, with soft lights woven into the fabric. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the breeze. The Yari priest spoke in the old tongue, but Tom understood the meaning. It was about unity, trust, standing beside someone, even when others step away. That part made Tom smile. When it was time to speak vows, Tom went first. I didn't know your name when I saved you, he said, looking at her, and I didn't need to. I saw someone who needed help. Now I see someone I want to walk with. Not behind, not ahead, just together. Neri's voice was soft but steady. I was lost, not just in space, but in life. You didn't fix me. I did that myself. But you reminded me that I could try, that I was not alone. For that, I stand beside you. As your partner, the guests clapped politely, though some did not hide their confusion. Many had never seen a human and a Yari speak with such open words. Some nobles whispered. A few even turned away. But King Ravuk stood and raised his hand. Let the stars remember this day. He said, not for power, not for politics, but for courage. And with those words, the union was complete. The celebration that followed was grand. Dancers moved across light bridges, and music floated through the air like wind. Floating dishes held food from both Yari and human cultures. Tom didn't recognize half of it, but he tried everything. Neri watched him with quiet amusement as he struggled to eat glowing fruit without dropping it. At one point during the evening, a noble approached Tom. His name was Lord Harrod, a known advisor of the king. His robes were rich, and his voice was cold. You are brave, Lord Harrod said, or foolish. Tom smiled. Sometimes it's the same thing. Harrod narrowed his eyes. Do you really think this will last? Our people do not mix easily. Tom looked across the room at Neri, who was speaking with her younger sister. She laughed at something the girl said. It was the first time Tom had seen her laugh like that. I think she's stronger than anyone gives her credit for, Tom said. And I don't quit when something matters. Lord Harrod walked away without replying. Later that night, Tom found Neri sitting alone in the royal garden. The lights had grown dim. The stars above were bright and clear. She looked up at them with quiet eyes. "Do you miss space?" she asked. "Yes," Tom said, sitting beside her. "But this place is special too." She nodded. "You were right. This was my choice. I don't regret." Tarn stood at the edge of the landing bay as the wind pulled at his coat. He had returned from the water world, Neria, and helped solve the poison problem. The sea had begun to heal. Princess Lenari, though still calm and quiet, now looked at him with a bit of trust. But Tarn knew one trial was not enough to still remain. The next day, Princess Vela came to him. She wore armor shaped like flames and walked with strong steps. Her voice was sharp like hot iron. "Now it is my turn," she said. "You will come to my world. The fire moons do not forgive weakness. If you fail, I will not marry you." Tarn nodded. "Then I must not fail." They boarded a fast ship and flew through glowing rings of space. After hours of travel, they reached Vela's world. It was called Pyros. One of the fire moons dot from above. It looked like a ball of lava and rock. Flames danced across its surface. Storms of heat moved in circles. But even in this burning place, people lived. Great metal cities floated above rivers of fire. Towers stood tall like blades. Machines dug deep into the moon's heart. As the ship landed, the heat wrapped around Tarn like a heavy blanket. Sweat formed on his face at once. He followed Vela into the city. Her people wore fireproof suits and worked near the mines with careful steps. "Our power comes from deep under the ground," Vela said. "But something has gone wrong. Fire burst without warning. Many miners are hurt. Machines fail. My engineers cannot stop it." Tarn looked around. He saw broken pipes leaking gas. Cracks in the rock glowed to bright. Workers moved fast, trying to fix things, but nothing stayed fixed for long. "Take me below," Tarn said. "I need to see it up close." Vela raised an eyebrow. "You will not last long." "I will try." They gave him a suit. It was heavy, but it kept the heat out. He followed a group of workers into the lower tunnels. The deeper they went, the louder the earth became. It rumbled like a sleeping beast. Lava bubbled under the metal floor. Tarn watched and listened. He saw that the pipes were too thin. The machines were old. Too much pressure built up, and when it had nowhere to go, it exploded. He spoke to the workers. They said no one listened. When they warned about the changes underground, Tarn nodded. He started drawing in the dust with his finger. Simple ideas. Ways to make the pipes wider using parts they already had. He showed them how to build a pressure gate from broken tools. It was nothing fancy, just smart use of what was near. The workers tried it. Slowly, the fire blasts became less violent. The air became safer. The tunnels quieter. After 3 days, the mines ran without trouble. The workers smiled at Tarn. They brought him food and called him the Quiet Flame. He smiled back and thanked them. Vela came down to see the change. She walked through the tunnels, looking at the calm lava and smooth machines. "What did you do?" she asked. "I listened," Tarn said. "Your people know the danger. They just needed help being heard." Vela stared at him. Her fire was still there, but softer now. "You are not strong in the way of warriors," she said. "But you are strong in another way. That matters more than I thought." They returned to Galador. Lenari met them at the landing bay. She stood beside Vela, and for the first time, the two princesses did not argue. Then came Kale. She appeared without a sound, stepping from a high balcony. The wind moved around her like a living thing. She did not speak at first. Her eyes, pale and bright, looked at Tarn with quiet thought. "You have passed the trials," she said. "Now you must come with me." Tarn followed her onto a ship shaped like a feather. It flew without sound through the upper winds of the galaxy. Kel's world, Aerith, floated high in the sky. It had no solid ground, only islands of stone floating. In the clouds, bridges made of wind connected the cities. Great beasts with wings flew between them. The people here lived in silence, speaking with soft hands and calm eyes. Kale led Tarn to one of the floating cities. The streets were empty. Flags did not move. The wind had stopped. "Our world lives through wind," Kale said. "It brings power, life, and sound. But the wind is gone. Entire cities are still. People cannot hear each other. We do not know why Tarn walked with her through the silent city. He felt the stillness. It was not peaceful. It was heavy. He looked at the wind machines on the rooftops. They were made to dance with the breeze, but now stood still like statues. Then he saw something strange. Dust had filled the air vents, pipes that once guided the wind were blocked. Some parts of the city had closed their gates, trying to hold the wind inside, but that only stopped it from moving. The wind must move to stay alive, Tarn said. If you trap it, it dies. Kale nodded. Her eyes held quiet understanding. Tarn worked with her people. They opened the old vents, cleared the dust, lifted the gates. He made small changes to the pipes so the wind could find its path again. And one morning, as the sun rose, the breeze returned. It moved gently at first, then grew stronger. Flags flew. Wind chimes sang. People smiled. Kale stood on the highest tower, watching her city come alive again. You brought the wind back, she said. No, Tarn answered. I just made room for it to return. She stepped closer. You have passed all 3 trials. You listened where others shouted. You worked where others gave up. You are not like any man I have met. They flew back to Galador in silence. Not an awkward silence, but a calm one, like the quiet before a soft rain. The 3 princesses met in the garden, where it all began. Tarn stood before them, tired but steady. You have earned our respect, Lenari said. You have earned our trust, Vela said. Kale looked at him, and perhaps more, but before anything more could be said, the sky above Galador turned dark. Alarms rang. Across the palace, the black swarm had returned, and this time they were not hiding. The sky over Galador changed. What was once blue and golden turned dark and heavy. Shadows moved across the clouds. They were not clouds at all. They were ships. Black ships, thousands of them. They came from the far side of the stars, silent and cold. They did not send messages. They did not ask for peace. They only moved forward, closer to the heart of the Union. Guards ran through the palace halls. Bells rang. Lights turned red. All of Galador felt the change. Something old and terrible had returned. Tarn stood on the palace balcony. He watched the sky with wide eyes. He had never seen ships so large, so empty. They made no sound, but he felt something inside him shift. The air had weight. The ground seemed unsure. Vela stood beside him, her hands clenched. It is them, the black swarm. Lunari arrived with calm steps, but her voice held worry. They have not attacked yet, but they will. They always do. Kale landed on the balcony from above. The wind around her moved fast, restless. They are testing us, watching, waiting. Tarn turned to the princesses. What do we do now, Vela? Look toward the king's tower. We speak to him. He must lead. But the king was already in the great hall. His guards stood around him. He looked older than before, as if the weight of war had returned to his shoulders. Tarn and the princesses entered the hall. The king looked at them with tired eyes. The swarm has come. I knew this day would return. He pointed to a glowing map. Small lights showed Union planets. Red marks showed lost worlds. The red had begun to spread again. They took the outer colonies first, quietly. We thought they were gone. We were wrong. Tarn stepped closer. Can we fight them? The king nodded slowly. Yes, but not with strength alone. They break fleets. They turn machines against their masters. They eat fear. That is their power. Fear and silence, Kale whispered. Like the still wind before a storm, the king coughed and leaned on his cane. I may not live to see the end of this war, but you, all 4 of you, must act now. You are not just trial partners anymore. You are the symbol of unity. If the Union sees you stand together, they will follow. Vela frowned. We are not ready. Lunari lowered her eyes. Our worlds are still healing. Kale was quiet. Tarn took a breath. But we have something the swarm does not. We have choice. We choose to stand together. The king looked at Tarn and smiled. That is why I chose. You. Just then, a sound filled the hall. A long, deep hum. It came from the sky above. The swarm had sent a signal. But it was not a voice. It was a feeling. Fear filled the room like smoke. Kale stepped back, holding her head. They are speaking without words, whispering in the air. Tarn stepped beside her. Ignore it. Breathe. Kale. Closed her eyes. The wind around her slowed. I will try. The king raised his hand. The fleet is ready, but they need leaders. Tarn, the princesses, you must go to your worlds. Prepare them. Call your people. Show them that hope still lives. Tarn nodded. We will go. Within the hour. The four were back on a ship. Not a small one, but a large command vessel called Star Watcher, the king's personal cruiser. It flew fast through the stars, splitting into paths toward each of their worlds. Tarn first returned with Lenari Teneria. The ocean world had already seen changes. The water was cleaner. The people were listening. Lenari stood before her people and spoke clearly. The swarm is near, but we are not alone. We will fight together. We will not sink. Tarn helped repair old ocean defenses. He worked with engineers and builders, simple things, strong walls, smart gates. Nothing magical, just honest work. Then Tarn flew with Vela to Pyros. The fire moons were burning hotter than ever. The people were ready for battle, but their anger needed direction. Vela shouted from the top of a steel tower. We are flame, and flame moves together. Follow me, and we will burn brighter than the swarm. Tarn helped organize the defense lines. He trained people in using pressure gates and fire control. He showed them that strength was not only in force, but also in calm choices. Finally, Tarn joined Kale on Earth. The skies were restless. The people feared silence once again. Kale flew above the cities. Her voice carried by the wind. The storm has returned, but this time we fly into it together. Tarn helped reconnect wind roots. He encouraged the people to listen to one another again. The wind grew steady. In a few days, the three worlds were not only standing, but prepared. The Star Watcher returned to Galador with Tarn and the princesses on board. Each had led. Each had inspired. In the central chamber of the ship, Tarn looked at them. I came here with nothing. No crown. No army. Just a promise. I still stand by it. If we stay together, we have a chance. Vel crossed her arms. You speak like a king. Lunari smiled. But lead like a farmer. Kale looked through the window. The stars are watching. Then the ship shook. A guard ran in. The swarm has entered Galador space. Battle is near. Tarn looked at the three princesses. They nodded as one. Then we stand. Tarn said, not as strangers, as one union. Outside. The sky turned red and black. The final storm had begun. The sky above Galador turned into a battlefield. Black swarm ships moved like shadows across the stars. Their shapes were sharp, silent, and without lights. They came with no warning, no message, no demand. Only silence and fear. The unions. Fleets rose to meet them. Hundreds of ships from every world came together. Each one carried the colors of its people: red, blue, green, silver, gold. But the swarm did not care for color. It attacked without mercy. From the royal tower, Tarn watched the battle begin. The sky flashed with bright lights as energy beams crossed between the ships. Some exploded. Some burned. Some simply vanished. Tarn turned to the king. The old ruler stood at the highest window, his hands behind his back. I have seen many wars. The king said, but this one feels different. The swarm does not fight to win. It fights to erase. Tarn's voice was quiet. Then we must not let it. The king nodded but did not smile. There is something I must give you. Come. He led Tarn to a quiet room behind the throne. It was small and round, with stars painted on the ceiling. In the center stood a stone table. On it rested a silver crown, simple but powerful. This crown holds no magic, said the king. Only meaning. But meaning is what brings people together. Tarn looked at the crown. Why show me this? The king looked tired. Because my time is near. The union needs someone new, someone all the worlds can trust. You are not a soldier. You are not a prince. But you have earned the loyalty of 3 princesses and the hope of many. Tarn stepped back. I'm just a farmer. The king placed a hand on his shoulder. That is why you are the right one. Before Tarn could answer, an explosion shook the palace. The floor trembled. Guards shouted. Smoke filled the halls. A captain ran in. Your Majesty, the swarm has landed near the palace. We must move you now. But the king did not move. He looked at Tarn one last time. Go, lead them. I will hold the gate. Tarn wanted to argue, but the king's eyes were firm. Tarn ran back through the halls as the swarm reached the walls. Their soldiers were not like others. They looked like black glass, with no eyes, no mouths. They moved like water, fast and cold. Princess Vel met Tarn near the palace steps. She held a blade of light and was already fighting. Tarn, where's the king? He stayed behind. Vel's jaw tightened. Then we make his choice worth it. They fought side by side. Soon Linari arrived with her guards. She used water to trap the swarm's fire. Kale flew down from the sky, wind spinning around her like a shield. Together, they pushed the swarm back from the palace steps. But inside, the king had fallen. By the time Tarn and the others returned, the guards were silent. The throne room was broken. The crown was gone from the table. The Union had lost its king. For a while, no one spoke. Then the leaders of the Union's many worlds gathered in the Great Hall. Faces from across the galaxy appeared on glowing screens. They asked one question. Who will lead? No, some argued. Others pointed fingers. Some blamed each other. But three voices stood tall. Vel spoke first. Tarn did not come from power. He earned it. Linari stood next. He united what we could not. Kale said simply, he listens. The leaders were quiet. Then one by one, they agreed. Ta or N would lead. Not as a king in name, but as a voice for all. Ta or N stepped forward. He wore no armor, no royal robe, only the simple coat he had worn on his farm. He looked into the screens. I did not ask for this. I did not dream of ruling. But I will not run from it. The swarm is not just a threat to one world. It is a threat to all. If we do not stand together now, we will fall alone. The leaders nodded. The Union stood once more. Tarn walked with the three princesses to the command center. There, maps of the stars and enemy ships filled the room. He pointed to the swarm's largest ship. This is the heart. If we strike here, the rest may fall. Linari asked, but how do we reach it? Kale stepped forward. Through silence. She explained that the swarm could feel emotion, fear, hate, even anger. But it could not feel peace. That was their key. Ta and looked at her. Then we used calm as our weapon. They formed a small team. One ship, quiet, focused. They would fly into the heart of the swarm. Not to destroy, but to speak. It was a risk. A great one. But it was their only chance. As they prepared for the mission. Tarn stood with the princesses one last time on the palace roof. I did not expect to meet any of you, he said. I thought I would live my life growing food and fixing things. Vela smirked. Instead, you are fixing the galaxy. Linari smiled. You have helped us grow. Kale simply said, we will fly with you. Tarn looked at all of them. Not with pride. But with deep thanks. Then the ship rose into the sky. Toward the swarm. Toward the unknown. Toward hope. The stars ahead were darker than before. The small ship moved quietly, hidden by silence and shadow. Inside, Tarn sat with Princess Vela, Princess Linari, and Princess Kale, together. They were flying toward the heart of the black swarm. No weapons. No armies. Only one ship. They were not going to fight with power. They were going with trust. With a new idea. With something the swarm had never faced. Hope. Tarn stood and looked around the ship. The controls were simple. The lights were dim. The engine hummed softly, smooth and calm. Vela checked the shields. We are close now. The swarm will sense us. Linari closed her eyes and placed her hand on a glass panel. Their energy is near, cold, still. But watching, Kale whispered, they wait for fear. We must not give it. Tarn nodded. Then we stay calm. We stay together. The ship flew deeper into space. Soon, they saw it. The swarm's core ship. It was massive. Larger than any planet they had seen. It floated in silence. No lights, no sound. Its surface looked like black stone mixed with glass. Thousands of Smaller ships circled it like flies around a flame. Tarn stood at the front window. "We go into that," Vela answered. "Yes, straight into the center." Kale guided the ship closer. Her hands moved without shaking. The ship passed through a hole in the outer shell. Not a door, more like a mouth that opened for them. It was a trap, maybe. But they had no choice. Inside, there was darkness. The ship floated forward into a long tunnel. Strange lights moved along the walls. Not machines, not wires, more like nerves and thoughts. The swarm was not a machine. It was alive. Suddenly, the ship stopped moving. "It has caught us," said Linari. Tarn looked around. "We keep going. If we cannot fly, we walk." They put on light suits and stepped out of the ship. The air was thin but breathable. The floor was smooth and black. It felt cold under their boots. They walked forward, step by step, deeper into the swarm's body. They did not speak. Only the sound of footsteps followed them. Finally, they reached a large room. It was round, with a glowing core in the center. Round it, shapes floated, figures of glass and smoke. They had no faces. They turned as Tarn and the princesses entered. A voice filled the room, not from one mouth, but from all directions. "You are not one of us." Tarn stepped forward. "No, we are not." "You are weak." "No," Tarn said. "We are different." The swarm voice became louder. "You bring fear." Kale whispered, "Do not let it grow." Tarn placed his hand on his chest. He closed his eyes. He breathed slowly. "I bring truth," he said. "You do not know truth. You only take. You do not grow. You do not feel. You do not care." "We do not need to care," said the voice. "We are many. We are one." Linari stepped forward. "But we are four, and still we live." Vela raised her voice. "We burn. We move. We change. You hide behind silence." Kale lifted her hand. "And you fear what you cannot control." The core in the center pulsed brighter. "You bring noise. We bring choice," Tarn said. "We come to offer something you have never known." The room grew still. Then the voice asked, "Why?" Tarn looked around. "Because you destroy what you do not understand. You erase voices. You erase lives. But not all life wants to fight. Some want to learn, to plant, to build. I was once just a farmer. Now I stand here, not because I am strong, but because I listen." The swarm did not answer. Tarn stepped closer to the core. "Even you came from something," he said. "You were once like us. You had thoughts, feelings. But you lost them. Let us help you remember." The lights changed. The figures around them faded. The core began to dim. "What are you offering?" the voice asked. "A new path," Linari said. "Peace," said Kale. "Fire that warms." "Not burns," said Vela. "Life," said Tarn. There was silence for a long time. Then the swarm answered. "We will not follow." Tarn's heart sank. "But we will stop." He looked up. "Why?" "Because we cannot win against what we do not understand. You are different, and difference is the one thing we fear." The core went dark. The ship they had arrived in started to glow. A soft light surrounded it. The walls of the swarm opened. Again, they turned and walked back. No fight, no chase, as checked. The return journey was quiet. Tarn and the three princesses sat inside the small ship, flying back through the stars. No ships followed them. No voices came through the signal lines. The black swarm had stopped. They had not destroyed it. They had not fought it. They had simply been heard. Tarn looked out of the window. Stars passed by like slow-moving fireflies. In his heart, he felt something new. Not pride, not power, just peace. A deep calm he had never known before. Princess Linari sat beside him. Her fingers moved slowly over the glass panel. "The swarm could have crushed us," she said. "But it did not." Kale nodded. "They did not expect understanding. That was our shield." Vela stood at the back of the ship. Her arms were crossed, but her face was soft. "You led us into darkness, Tarn, and we walked out together. I have never seen that before." Tarn gave a small smile. "Maybe we gave them what they never had, someone to listen." When they reached Galador, the whole Union was waiting. The sky was full of ships from every world. Flags waved in the wind. Lights covered every tower, every bridge. People filled the streets, waiting to see the ones who had returned from the center of the swarm. As the ship landed, the crowd grew silent. Then the doors opened, and Tarn stepped out first. He wore no crown, no armor, just the simple coat he always wore, now clean but patched from the journey. Behind him walked the princesses Vela in red and gold, Lunari in silver and blue, and Kale in white and gray. The crowd began to cheer, louder and louder, until the city echoed with the sound. Tarn raised one hand, and the people fell quiet again. He stood on the steps of the palace, the same place where the king had once stood, the same place where everything had begun. Tarn spoke with clear, steady words. The black swarm is not gone, but it has changed, and so must we. We stood together not with fear, but with trust. We won not with weapons, but with unity. He looked at the people from every world. I was not born to rule. I came from a small world, full of soil and sun. I knew only how to grow things. But I have learned that the galaxy is like a garden. If you care for it, it will live. If you neglect it, it will fall. Lunari stepped forward. Let our waters be shared. Vela added. Let our fire protect, not destroy. Kale finished. Let the winds carry truth, not war. Tarn looked at them with deep respect. They were called to marry me. But I did not win their hands with power. I earned their trust with care. The leaders of the Union came forward. One by one, they bowed their heads. A new symbol was raised. In the sky above the palace, not just a crown, but a circle made of fire, water, wind, and earth. A mark of the new age. The union of 4 days passed. Then weeks. Under Tarn's guidance, peace spread across the galaxy. Trade routes opened. Lost worlds rejoined the Union. Scientists and thinkers from different planets shared knowledge. Even some of the swarm's smaller ships were found drifting, empty and quiet. They had not attacked again. Tarn worked daily. He met with farmers and builders, with captains and artists. He always listened. He always asked questions. He never acted as if he knew everything. He never called himself king. But the people did. They called him the king beyond the stars, not because he ruled with power, but because he led with heart. Vela became commander of the defense fleet. Her fire protected the Union from pirates and threats. She trained young pilots and never let them forget the cost of battle. Lunari became the voice of diplomacy. She spoke with leaders from distant worlds. She helped them understand one another. Through calm words and wise plans, Kale took care of the skies. She watched the movement of the stars. She studied the quiet messages carried on the wind. Her work helped prevent storms, both natural and political. And Tarn continued to grow food. Even as a ruler, he spent time in the palace gardens. He taught children how to plant. He showed soldiers how to find peace in the soil. He even planted seeds from earth across different worlds. One day, he stood with the princesses on the balcony of the palace. The sun was setting across Galador. The sky was painted with orange, pink, and silver. Tarn took a deep breath. We've come far. Vela smirked. Farther than I expected. Lunari smiled. And we still grow. Kale looked at the stars. The wind has changed. Tarn nodded. Let it carry hope. A soft breeze passed over them. Below. The people of Galador laughed, danced, and lived without fear. The swarm had once been their end. But now, the future belonged to unity. To peace. To the farmer who became a leader. To the princesses who chose love, not pride. To the galaxy that remembered what it meant to grow.